What is this obsession with personal bests? Whenever a triathlon comes along, I almost always see people posting about their PBs. I mean, I get it, that a triathlon tends to attract the type of person who likes to push themselves. And then, don't get me wrong, I am one of these people. I am somebody who likes to push himself. We always want to be better than yesterday. Better than yesterday, is that some sort of marketing slogan? If you are always striving for a personal best, if you want to get faster every time you go out there, whether it be on the swim, on the bike, or the run, if your aim is to always get faster, I will argue that it is detrimental to your sport in the long run. Let me explain. So 2 years ago, a few friends and I joined our first Ironman relay. I did the bike leg, my friend Charles did the swim, and Franco did the run. This was our first triathlon relay, so we were just happy to finish, to be honest. But this year, in 2024, we joined again, and we had a goal of being faster than the last time we did a triathlon. The goal made sense, we had a little bit more experience, we had more time to train, and it seemed very achievable. Of course, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, I just wanted to include that in there. Here's how our Ironman 2024 relay went. Charles did the swim again. From what I heard, the swim was really tough. They've been doing the Ironman here in Cebu for about 10 years now, and I think the 2024 edition was one of the toughest ones yet. It was much more difficult than 2 years ago. The water current in the start made our swimmer feel like a super athlete because he was going in the same direction as the water current. But on his turnaround, there were stretches where he was not moving. It was like he was swimming on a treadmill. In fact, the swim was the story for this year's Ironman Cebu leg. It was so tough that a good chunk of people did not finish the swim. I think the number was about 200. That is the number that I heard, so I'm not really sure, but a lot of people did not finish the swim. Fortunately, our swimmer Charles came prepared with months of training. To be honest, I'm not sure he would have been able to finish the swim 2 years ago. So kudos to you, Charles. He finished in 55 minutes and 43 seconds. I cannot imagine swimming for almost an hour. That is why I don't triathlon. Anyway, on to the bike portion, because the bike portion was also difficult. For the Cebu leg of the Ironman, the bike portion is always a highlight. You get a bike through the CC Lex, that's the Cebu-Cordova Link Expressway. It is the longest bridge in the Philippines at 8.9 kilometers long. You have to do 3 loops of the route, and when I first got on the bike, I was flying. I had delusions of grandeur of possibly finishing the route with a 33 kilometer per hour average, because when I first got on the bike, it was really easy to hit 35 kilometers an hour, 33 kilometers an hour. So I was feeling really positive in the beginning. Little did I know, I was experiencing a very strong tailwind. So similar to the swim, at the turnaround point, reality set in with a strong headwind. All of a sudden, reaching 30 kilometers an hour was a struggle. And you can see that in my bike splits. In the first 12 kilometers, I averaged 31.95 kilometers per hour. I had to stop and fix my chain. The chain wouldn't shift to the big gear. At the 23 kilometer point, I was averaging 34.97 kilometers an hour. And then after the first turnaround, my average dropped at 27.77 kilometers an hour. And here's a graphic so you can see what happened. Quick notes on my bike setup. I did not have the perfect bike for an Ironman. I felt like I was one of the few people who did not have aero bars on their bike. I ran my Canyon Inflite with a few changes. I used an F1S integrated handlebar, TPU inner tube, Celyn Italia SLR Boost TM Superflow saddle, and 700 by 30 Valkyrie Pro road tires. I opted on this because I didn't want to change my whole setup just to have clip-on aero bars. You can't use clip-on aero bars on an aero cockpit, unfortunately. And if you watch my other videos, it is clear that I am not a triathlete or a time trialist, so I didn't want to change my whole setup just for that event. But I'll tell you, the aero bars were super useful, especially when I was going up against that headwind. The aero bars just allow you to hide from the wind and tuck yourself into a more aero position, and which just means that there's less drag on your body and you are the biggest drag on the bike. So aero bars for that course would have been super helpful. Because according to Strava, the winds were about 15.6 kilometers per hour headwind as opposed to the 10.2 kilometers per hour crosswind of the Ironman 2 years ago. So I finished the bike in 3 hours, 5 minutes, and 37 seconds. I'm so convinced that I would have gone so much faster with aero bars. See, you can tell that I'm still stuck at trying to be better than yesterday. I am a competitive person. Anyway, bear with me. Franco did the run.
Go Franco!
This year, it was hot all day. There was not a cloud in sight. It didn't help that most of the run course was done midday and that the area had very little tree coverage. On the course, I even noticed a fire truck gently hosing runners as they ran. It looked pretty bad. I'm glad I didn't have to run. But Franco's a trooper. He soldiered on.
MASLoveCLI!
And he did the run in 2 hours, 40 minutes, and 24 seconds. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that this year's conditions were so much tougher than 2 years ago. And we wanted to be better than 2 years ago. But our times were slower, even though I feel like we actually performed better. So in 2022, we finished the whole relay in 6 hours, 32 minutes, and 38 seconds. This year, in 2024, we finished in 6 hours, 49 minutes, and 39 seconds. You know, in sports, we've been brainwashed into always trying to do our best. And that's great, because if you're gonna do something, you may as well give it your all. But the mistake is when we think of our best as something represented by a stopwatch. Especially when we keep trying to better our best. Be better than yesterday. What happens when we can't reach our best anymore? At some point, Father Time catches up to everybody. The simple fact is that as you get older, there will be a point where you will slow down. So what happens then? If the main motivation to keep going is to always get a better time, what happens when we know for certain that we will never reach that PB again? Because if that's your main source of motivation, it's gonna work for a while. It'll work until it won't. Because we can't expect to always get faster. So I don't know, for me, focusing on PBs kinda misses the point. That's what I was thinking about when I saw the biggest inspiration in the finish line at this year's Ironman. Her name is Pamela Williams from Australia. She is 75 years old. And she wasn't doing the relay like us pansies. She did the whole thing, the swim, the bike, the run. So the question is, how did she find the motivation, the grit? Never mind finishing the triathlon. How did she find the motivation and grit to train for the triathlon? How did she find the motivation and grit to keep going day after day after day at the age of 75? I suspect she wasn't focusing on PBs. Basically, this whole video is about enjoying the journey and not making it all about the end goal. So with that in mind, I'd like to talk about some other journey that I recently enjoyed. I was invited by Curve Coffee collaborators to be a guest barista in the recently held WOFEX in Cebu. I wasn't on the bar long, maybe just an hour or two, but since I often daydream about one day opening a cafe, maybe when I retire, or should I say retire, this was a wake-up call for me because I am not used to serving people at all. Like, I started to rattle when customers asked me questions about the coffee I was brewing. But it was such a fun experience, and I hope that one day I get to do it again. We were serving beans from the guest pouch collection from Curve. These are highly graded beans from Colombia, and you can order them online at curve.coffee. Thank you, Curve, for sponsoring the vlog. Alright, that's it. If you'd like to hear more from me, I have a weekly newsletter called The Villain Diary. You can subscribe over here. Alright, ciao. More videos soon.